The corridor stretches ahead, quiet and empty. Somewhere deep within the structure, a low hum persists, steady and patient, as if the walls themselves are breathing. Tonight, our attention turns to the Tibanna gas processors of Cloud City. Settle into the stillness. Let your bed hold you softly. Let your thoughts grow quiet and distant. Let the last of your effort melt away. This is canon and calm. Let us begin. The descent into the lower reaches of Cloud City is a slow transition from light to shadow. You feel the vibration in the floor of the lift, a steady tremor that speaks of massive turbines spinning deep within the station core. The golden hues of the Bespin sunset fade as you pass through the cloud layer, replaced by the amber glow of industrial lighting. The atmosphere down here is dense, laden with the metallic tang of processed gas and the faint scent of hydraulic fluid. Every breath carries the weighted presence of the machine, a reminder that this city is more than a jewel in the sky. It is a factory. You step out onto the metal grating, your boots making a hollow clatter that echoes through the narrow corridor. To your left, a series of pipes, each as wide as a person, carry raw Tibanna from the atmospheric scoops to the primary filters. The metal is cold to the touch, coated in a fine layer of condensation that drips steadily onto the deck below. This is the lifeblood of the station, the precious cargo that keeps the economy of the sector afloat. You reach the first monitoring station, a small alcove tucked between two massive pressure vessels. The console is old, its buttons worn smooth by decades of gloved fingers. You check the primary intake levels, watching the flickering green displays as they register the flow of gas from the depths of the planet. The pressure is holding steady at 44,000 units, a comfortable margin for the evening shift. There is a certain peace in these numbers, a predictability that the upper levels often lack. Here, the laws of physics and the demands of the mining guild are the only things that matter. A low tone hums from a nearby vent, indicating a pressure release in the secondary chamber. You turn a manual dial, feeling the resistance of the gears as they move against the internal pressure. The hiss of escaping steam follows, a sharp noise that gradually fades into the background murk of the facility. Walking further into the complex, you pass a group of Ugnaughts working on a broken steam gasket. They do not look up as you pass, their focus entirely on the task at hand. Their movements are efficient, a measured tempo of welding and wrenching that has been perfected over generations of service to the city. The lighting in this section is dim, provided by a few flickering strips of luminescent tubing overhead. It casts long, distorted shadows across the machinery, making the pipes look like the ribs of some immense, slumbering beast. You find a certain comfort in the isolation, away from the politics and the crowds of the promenade. You arrive at the spin-ceiling floor, where the raw Tibanna is compressed and prepared for transport. The noise here is different, a series of mechanical thuds and the whine of high-speed centrifuges. Each canister is moved along a magnetic track, glowing with a soft blue light as the sealing process completes. You pause to inspect a stack of finished canisters, their metallic casings still warm from the processing heat. Each one is marked with the seal of the mining guild, a guarantee of purity and quality. These will be loaded onto a freighter by morning, destined for shipyards and power plants across the galaxy. Through a thick, reinforced window, you can see the swirling clouds of the gas giant outside. The storm is brewing in the lower depths. flashes of purple lightning illuminating the thick clouds for a brief moment. It is a reminder of the scale of the environment you inhabit, a small station floating in a sea of gas. The chill of the facility begins to seep through your uniform, a coldness that comes from the liquid nitrogen used in the cooling systems. You adjust your collar, pulling the fabric tight against your skin. The work is physically demanding, but it provides a sense of purpose that is hard to find elsewhere. You move toward the carbon freezing chambers, a section of the station that is usually quiet during the evening hours. The floor here is slick with oil, and the smell of chemicals is much stronger. This is where the most dangerous work is done, where the gas is stabilized for long-term storage. The main chamber is empty for now, the freezing pit glowing with a dull orange light. You check the temperature sensors, ensuring that the liquid carbonite is kept at the precise level required for the next cycle. The silence here is weighted, a stark contrast to the noise of the processing floor. You notice a small leak in a coolant line near the base of the pit. It is nothing serious, just a slow drip of blue fluid that pools on the floor. You make a note of it on your datapad, marking it for the maintenance crew to address during the next scheduled downtime. As you walk back toward the central hub, you reflect on the history of this place. Cloud City has changed hands many times, but the work remains the same. The gas must flow, the pressure must be maintained, and the station must stay afloat among the clouds. The quiet hours of the shift are your favorite time, when the facility feels like it belongs to you alone. The constant pulse of the machinery becomes a background melody, a familiar song that you have learned to trust. It is the measure of a station that is healthy and functioning as it should. You stop at a small break area, a metal table and a few chairs bolted to the floor. You take a sip of lukewarm cafe from your flask, the bitter liquid warming your throat. Outside the small viewport, a patrol of cloud cars passes by, their lights blinking in the dimness of the evening. The shift is only halfway through, and there is still much to be done before the sun rises. You finish your drink and stand up, feeling the familiar ache in your joints. The work is never truly finished, but there is a satisfaction in knowing that you have done your part for another day. You head toward the ventilation shafts, where the primary filters need to be checked for debris. The path is narrow and steep, requiring you to navigate a series of ladders and catwalks. Each step is a deliberate movement, a careful dance between the worker and the machine that will continue long into the coming hours. The metal of the ladder feels biting against your palms, a sharp reminder of the altitude and the cold precision of this station. You climb upward, each rung offering a solid, metallic ring that echoes through the narrow vertical passage. The atmosphere here is thin, filtered through 100 layers of machinery before it reaches your lungs, carrying a faint scent of ozone and recycled oxygen. You reach the primary intake grate, where the wind from the gas giant outside screams against the hull in a low mourning tone. It is a lonely noise, the voice of a planet that has no ground to stand upon, only endless layers of storm and vapor. You brace your shoulder against the bulkhead, feeling the vibration of the massive fans spinning just beyond the steel plating, a force that keeps the city breathing. The filter latch is stiff, encrusted with a layer of fine amber-colored dust that has accumulated over the last 12 hours. This is the raw essence of Bespin, the unrefined Tibanna that fuels the starships of the galaxy and keeps the lights burning on 1,000 worlds. You pull the lever with a slow, deliberate pressure, until the seal breaks with a sharp hiss of escaping pressure that makes your ears pop. Inside the housing, the mesh is choked with debris, small fragments of atmospheric crystals and carbon soot that sparkle in the light of your lamp. You slide the old unit out, its frames scraping against the guides with a dry, rasping tone that vibrates through your forearms. It is weighted with the labor of the shift, a physical record of the station drawing its breath from the clouds. You slide the new filter into place, the clean fabric appearing white and pristine in the dim glow of your headlamp. It slides home with a satisfying thud, a perfect fit that ensures the purity of the gas flow for the next cycle. You lock the housing once more, feeling the tension return to the metal handle as the seals engage with a dull click. Moving away from the vents, you enter a long corridor lined with thick, insulated pipes that hum with a constant low-frequency pulse. These conduits carry the supercooled gas toward the refining chambers, their exteriors frosted with a delicate layer of ice that glimmers like diamonds. You run a gloved finger along the frost, tracing a line through the frozen condensation and watching the moisture bead on your fingertip. The environment here is quiet, away from the roar of the main processing floor, a sanctuary of industry and shadow. You can hear the distant murmur of the city above, a faint vibration that travels through the very bones of the station, carrying the weight of thousands of lives. It is the sound of a civilization sleeping, unaware of the work being done beneath their feet to keep the gravity stable. You pass a doorway leading to the Ugnaught quarters, where the scent of roasted meat and industrial grease persists in the hallway. The rooms are silent now, the small industrious workers resting before their next grueling shift in the processing pits. You respect their privacy, walking softly on the balls of your feet to avoid disturbing their hard-earned peace in the quiet hours. A small maintenance droid rolls past you, its singular eye glowing with a soft blue light that reflects off the metallic floor. It chirps a brief greeting in a language of clicks and whistles, a friendly note in the industrial stillness of the lower decks. You nod to the machine, a silent acknowledgement of a fellow traveler in these late hours, both of you tending to the station's needs. The path leads you toward the pressure regulation hub, a circular room filled with glowing dials and brass levers that have been polished by years of use. The lighting here is low, a warm amber that casts long dancing shadows across the curved walls and the complex array of sensors. You check the primary gauge, watching the needle quiver near the green safety zone as the gas flows through the system. There is a slight tremor in the floor, a sign that the refinery is drawing in a fresh batch of gas from the lower collection platforms. You adjust a valve, turning the wheel with both hands until the pressure begins to level out and the needle steadies. The metal is warm to the touch, heated by the friction of the moving gas as it is compressed and prepared for the freezing chambers. You pause for a moment, leaning your forehead against the cool glass of a small viewport that looks out into the void. Outside, the clouds of Bespin are a deep, bruised purple, illuminated by the lightning of a distant storm that rages hundreds of miles below. The scale of the planet is immense, a measureless sea of vapor that stretches out in every direction, beautiful and terrifying in its scope. The station feels small in comparison, a tiny island of light and heat in a cold, indifferent sky that never ends. You watch a bolt of lightning arc between two cloud banks, a silent flash of energy that vanishes as quickly as it appeared, leaving only the dimness. It is a dangerous place, and you are its silent guardian, ensuring that the balance between the station and the storm remains intact. You move toward the carbonite storage wing, where the atmosphere is noticeably colder and the light is even more sparse. The ceiling is high, lost in the murk of the upper rafters, where thick cables hang like frozen vines from the overhead supports. This is where the finished product is kept, locked in solid blocks of grey metal, waiting for the transport ships to arrive. The rows of canisters are neatly organized, each one marked with a series of glowing identification codes that pulse with a slow, steady light. You walk among them, your boots clicking on the polished floor with a sharp, clear tone that echoes through the chamber. The silence here is dense, a physical presence that seems to press against your ears and hold the world in place. You find a small leak in one of the overhead coolant lines, a single drop of blue fluid falling every few seconds toward the floor. It hits the metal with a soft, wet plink, a tiny disturbance in the stillness of the room that draws your immediate attention. You place a collection tray beneath the leak, a temporary fix until the maintenance crew can perform a more permanent repair in the morning. The work is repetitive, but there is a comfort in the repetition, a sense of order in a world that often feels chaotic. Each task is a link in a chain, a necessary part of a much larger process that keeps the city afloat among the clouds. You take pride in the small things, the tight seals and the steady pressures that define a job well done during the night shift. As you move toward the external gantries, the wind begins to pick up, whistling through the gaps in the outer doors with a high-pitched keen. The temperature drops further, and you can see your breath misting in the dim light of the corridor, a white cloud that vanishes into the shadows. You prepare yourself for the walk outside, checking the seals on your environment suit and the charge on your lamp. The transition from the interior to the outer decks is always a shock, a sudden shift from the mechanical hum to the raw power of the atmosphere. You step out onto the metal grating, the wind tugging at your clothes with a persistent, invisible hand that tries to pull you toward the edge. The view is spectacular, a horizon that never ends, where the stars meet the clouds in a blur of light and shadow. You walk along the narrow walkway, the stars above obscured by the thick haze of the upper atmosphere and the glow of the city's lights. Below, the lights of the lower mining platforms twinkle like fallen stars, a reminder that you are not alone in this landscape of gas and metal. You reach the final checkpoint of your round, ready to face the long hours that remain before the first light of dawn touches the clouds. The transition from the external gantry back into the pressurized secondary processing wing is a quiet one. The airlock cycles with a muffled hiss, equalizing the pressure between the wild Bespin winds and the controlled interior. You feel the change in your ears, a soft pop that signals your return to the industrial heart of the station. Inside, the atmosphere is warmer, carrying the faint metallic scent of refined gas and heated copper. The corridor here is narrower than the main thoroughfares, lined with thick, insulated pipes that pulse with a low, steady frequency. These are the veins of the city, carrying the raw Tibanna from the collection scoops to the primary centrifuges. Your boots find a steady tempo on the rubberized floor mats, designed to dampen the vibration of the massive machinery below. The walls are a pale, utilitarian grey, stained in places by the persistent amber oil used to lubricate the high-speed turbines. You pass a series of small circular portholes that look out over the internal processing pits, where the gas is spun at incredible speeds. In the dimness of the processing pit, the Tibanna glows with a soft bioluminescent quality, a ghostly white vapor that swirls in tight spirals. It is a beautiful sight, one that most of the city's residents never see from their polished balconies above. You pause for a moment to watch the measure of the spin, ensuring the magnetic fields are holding the vortex in a perfect centered alignment. Everything appears stable, the gauges on the bulkhead showing pressures within the nominal range for the late hour. You reach into your tool belt and retrieve a small handheld scanner, its screen casting a soft green light onto your palm. You move the device over the seal of the primary intake valve, listening for the telltale chirp of a secure connection. The scanner confirms the integrity of the seal, its steady tone a comforting reassurance in the silence of the wing. You continue down the hall, passing a row of dormant maintenance droids parked in their charging alcoves. Their optical sensors are dark, their metal frames clicking softly as they cool down from their daytime duties. This part of the station feels like a different universe compared to the bustling plazas and casinos of the upper levels. There are no tourists here, no high-stakes sabacc games, only the tireless work of the machines and the few souls who tend to them. You appreciate the solitude, the way the shadows stretch across the floor in long, thin fingers of charcoal and smoke. As you reach the secondary filtration chamber, the noise of the facility shifts to a deeper, more resonant thrum. This is where the impurities are stripped from the gas, leaving behind the pure, volatile energy that powers starships across the galaxy. The air here is filtered and dry, tasting of ozone and the faint, sharp tang of ionization. Large, cylindrical tanks rise from the floor to the ceiling, their surfaces covered in a fine layer of condensation. You run a gloved hand along the side of one tank, feeling the intense cold of the processed gas within. It is a reminder of the power contained within these walls, a force that must be handled with the utmost care and respect. In the corner of the room, a small desk is tucked away, a relic of a time when the refinery was managed by a larger crew. A single lamp remains lit on the desk, its warm glow illuminating a stack of handwritten logs and a half-empty cup of cold cafe. You imagine the worker who sat here before you, perhaps decades ago, marking the same pressures and checking the same seals. There is a sense of continuity in this work, a feeling that you are part of a long line of caretakers who have kept this city afloat. The station itself is a marvel of engineering, a delicate balance of gravity and gas that requires constant vigilance to maintain. You take a moment to sit in the old chair, the worn leather creaking under your weight as you record your findings in the digital log. Outside the thick durasteel walls, the gas giant continues its eternal stir, the immense clouds shifting in patterns that no one can truly predict. You can feel the subtle vibrations of the city's repulsor lifts, the massive engines that fight against the pull of the planet's core. It is a constant, quiet struggle, one that defines every moment of life in this place among the stars. You stand up and stretch, your joints popping in the stillness of the chamber. The next part of your round takes you into the auxiliary power relay station, a high-voltage area that requires even more caution. You check the insulation on your gloves once more, ensuring there are no tears or worn spots that could lead to a dangerous discharge. The door to the relay station is weighted and thick, requiring a firm push to swing open on its heavy hinges. Inside, the atmosphere is alive with the crackle of electricity. 1,000 tiny sparks dancing across the surface of the power converters. The light here is a flickering blue, casting jagged shadows that move in time with the pulse of the energy grid. You walk along the elevated catwalk, the metal grating beneath your feet, providing a precarious view of the transformers below. The heat rising from the equipment is intense, a physical wall that brushes against your face as you move through the room. You monitor the cooling fans, their blades spinning in a blur of motion that creates a steady, low-pitched whine. One of the fans is vibrating slightly more than the others, a minor imbalance that could lead to a failure if left unchecked. You make a note in your log to have the maintenance crew replace the bearings during the next scheduled shutdown. It is a small detail, but in a place like this, the small details are what keep the entire system from collapsing. You move toward the back of the relay station, where the main power cables disappear into the floor on their way to the upper levels. The cables are as thick as a man's torso, wrapped in layers of protective shielding that hum with the sheer volume of energy passing through them. You place a hand near the shield, feeling the magnetic field pull at the metal tools on your belt. The work is tiring, but there is a satisfaction in knowing that the city above is sleeping peacefully because of your efforts. The lights in the hotels, the life support in the apartments, the security systems in the vaults, all of it depends on the work done here. You take a final look around the relay station, satisfied that everything is functioning as it should be during these quiet hours. You exit the power room and move back into the main corridor, the temperature dropping to a more comfortable level as you leave the transformers behind. The silence of the hallway is a welcome change, allowing you to hear the distant, melodic chime of the station's clock. It is 3 in the morning, the deepest part of the nocturnal shift, when the world seems to hold its breath. You turn the corner toward the auxiliary cooling hub, where the real work of the deep shift is just reaching its peak. The auxiliary cooling hub welcomes you with a sharp, biting chill, a stark contrast to the stifling warmth of the power relay station. Here the mist hangs low, clinging to the floor like a white shroud that obscures your boots. You can see your breath blooming in the dim light, a brief cloud that vanishes as quickly as it appears. Your footsteps make a different noise on this floor, a crisp metallic snap that echoes through the frozen chamber. The pipes here are coated in a fine layer of rime, sparkling like crushed diamonds under the glow of the emergency lamps. You reach out a gloved hand to brush away the ice from a pressure gauge, the crystals crunching softly under your fingers. The needle on the gauge sits comfortably in the green zone, indicating that the liquid nitrogen is flowing at the correct pressure. This is the lifeblood of the cooling system, the freezing agent that keeps the Tibanna gas stable as it is processed. Without this constant flow, the gas would become volatile, a danger to everyone on the station. You move deeper into the hub, where the large cryogenic tanks stand like silent sentinels. They are massive cylinders of reinforced durasteel, their exteriors frosted over from the extreme cold within. You can hear the low, measured cadence of the pumps as they circulate the coolant through the miles of tubing that snake through the city's underbelly. One of the tanks has a small leak, a tiny plume of white vapor escaping from a valve. You tighten the fitting with a wrench, the metal groaning as it yields to your strength. The leak stops, and the silence of the room returns, broken only by the hum of the machinery. It is a small victory, one of many in a shift that seems to stretch on forever. You walk past a row of monitoring stations, their screens glowing with a soft amber light. The data scrolling across the displays is a blur of numbers and charts, all indicating that the system is operating within normal parameters. You check the temperature readings for the primary heat exchangers, ensuring they are not overheating. The heat exchangers are the heart of the cooling hub, responsible for removing the excess energy generated by the gas processing. They are massive structures, filled with a maze of tubes and fins that radiate heat into the surrounding atmosphere. You can feel the warmth emanating from them, a gentle pulse that contrasts with the chill of the room. You move toward the back of the hub, where the main coolant lines disappear into the floor. The lines are wrapped in layers of insulation, held in place by metal straps that have begun to rust in the damp environment. You check the integrity of the insulation, looking for any signs of wear or damage. A small section of insulation has come loose, exposing the cold metal of the pipe beneath. You use a piece of adhesive tape to secure it, the sticky material clinging to your gloves as you work. It is a temporary fix, but it will hold until the maintenance crew can perform a more permanent repair. You take a moment to rest, leaning against a nearby railing and looking out over the sprawling complex. The cooling hub is a maze of pipes, tanks, and machinery, all working together to keep the city functioning. It is a testament to the ingenuity of the engineers who designed it, a complex system that requires constant attention. The silence of the hub is interrupted by the distant sound of a whistle, a high-pitched note that signals the end of a processing cycle. You check your watch, noting that it is almost 4 in the morning. The shift is half over, but there is still much work to be done. You move back toward the entrance of the hub, your footsteps echoing in the empty chamber. The mist has begun to clear, revealing the intricate network of pipes and valves that fill the room. You take one last look around, satisfied that everything is in order before moving on to the next sector. The hallway outside the cooling hub is quiet, the only noise the faint hum of the ventilation system. You walk toward the gas filtration unit, a massive structure that removes impurities from the Tibanna gas before it is bottled. The unit is a complex maze of filters and centrifuges, all working to ensure the gas is of the highest quality. You check the filter pressure, noting that it is slightly higher than normal. This is to be expected as the filters become clogged with debris over time. You initiate a backwash cycle, the sound of rushing water filling the room as the filters are cleaned. The backwash cycle takes several minutes to complete, during which you monitor the pressure gauges to ensure they return to their normal levels. Once the cycle is finished, the pressure drops, and the filtration unit returns to its quiet operation. You make a note in your log, recording the time and the results of the backwash. You move toward the centrifuges, their spinning drums creating a low-pitched whine that vibrates through the floor. The centrifuges are used to separate the different isotopes of the Tibanna gas, a process that requires precision and care. You check the balance of the drums, ensuring they are not vibrating excessively. One of the centrifuges is slightly out of balance, a minor issue that can be corrected by adjusting the weight of the drum. You use a small tool to make the adjustment, the whine of the centrifuge changing pitch as the balance is restored. It is a delicate task, one that requires a steady hand and a keen ear. You walk past a row of storage tanks, each filled with a different grade of Tibanna gas. The tanks are marked with color-coded labels, indicating the purity and the intended use of the gas. You check the seals on the tanks, looking for any signs of leakage or corrosion. The seals are all intact, their rubber gaskets still supple and firm. You move toward the end of the filtration unit, where the gas is bottled into high-pressure canisters. The bottling process is automated, a series of robotic arms moving the canisters into place and filling them with gas. You monitor the bottling process, ensuring that each canister is filled to the correct pressure and that the valves are properly seated. The robotic arms move with a graceful, fluid motion, their metallic joints clicking softly as they work. It is a mesmerizing sight, a dance of technology and precision. You take a final look at the filtration unit, satisfied that it is operating efficiently. The gas is pure, the filters are clean, and the bottling process is proceeding without incident. You turn your gaze toward the primary compression chambers, where the weight of the atmosphere above moves like a tangible presence against the hull. The primary compression chambers stand like silent giants, their metallic skins trembling with the force of the gas being squeezed within. You place a hand against the cold plating, feeling the vibration travel through your palm and up your arm. It is a steady, reassuring pulse, the lifeblood of the city moving through its veins. Outside the reinforced viewports, the orange clouds of Bespin churn in a slow, eternal dance. The pressure at this depth is immense, a weight that only the strongest alloys can withstand. You watch as a distant flash of lightning illuminates the mist, a brief spark in the endless sea of gas. Your boots make a dull metallic clack on the floor as you walk toward the pressure regulators. These dials, marked in the familiar curves of Aurebesh, tell the story of the city's health. You adjust a brass knob, feeling the resistance of the internal spring as you fine-tune the flow. A small hiss of steam escapes from a relief valve, a tiny cloud that quickly vanishes into the recycled atmosphere. It smells of ozone and heated oil, the scent of industrial labor that has permeated these halls for decades. You wipe a smudge of grease from the glass cover of a gauge, your movements slow and deliberate. The compression cycle enters its second phase, and the floor beneath you hums with a new, lower frequency. This is the work of the massive pistons deep below, pushing the Tibanna into its liquid state. You can feel the power of it, a force that could crush a starship held in check by rows of reinforced bolts. You turn your attention to the cooling conduits, which are already beginning to frost over. The heat generated by the compression must be drawn away, or the entire deck would become an oven. You trace the line of a pipe with your eyes, following it as it disappears into the ceiling. In the corner of the room, a small maintenance droid chirps softly, its red eye glowing in the dimness. It is busy tightening the seals on a secondary line, its mechanical hands moving with a precision that no human could match. You give it a nod of acknowledgement, a silent greeting between two workers on the late shift. The silence of the chamber is only broken by the mechanical groans of the city as it shifts in the wind. These sounds are familiar, a language you have learned to interpret over the years of service. A sharp metallic ping means the metal is contracting, while a long, low moan indicates the wind is picking up outside. You move to the next station, where the liquefied gas is stored in temporary holding tanks. These tanks are made of a dense, lead-lined alloy designed to contain the volatile energy of the Tibanna. You check the temperature readings, ensuring they stay well below the boiling point. A thin layer of condensation has formed on the exterior of the tanks, and you watch a single droplet as it trails down the side. It moves slowly, weaving around the rivets and seams before falling to the floor. You find yourself mesmerized by its progress, a small moment of quiet beauty in this industrial landscape. The lights in this sector are dimmed to conserve power, casting long, dramatic shadows across the machinery. You find the half-light comforting, a soft blanket that hides the wear and tear of the aging equipment. It is a place where time seems to slow down, where the only thing that matters is the steady flow of gas. You reach for your datapad, its screen glowing with a soft blue light that reflects in your eyes. You record the pressure levels and the temperature of the cooling lines, your fingers tapping out the numbers with practiced ease. Every entry is a testament to the quiet routine that keeps the city afloat. Looking out another viewport, you see the distant lights of a neighboring refinery platform. It looks like a jewel suspended in the murk, a tiny island of civilization in the measureless expanse of the gas giant. You wonder if there is someone else out there, looking back at your own lights with the same sense of isolation. The wind howls against the hull, a reminder of the hostile environment that surrounds this sanctuary. Bespin is a beautiful world, but it is also a dangerous one, and the city is the only thing standing between you and the crushing depths. You feel a sudden surge of gratitude for the engineers who built this place, for the strength of the walls and the reliability of the life support. You walk toward the exit of the compression chamber, your shadow stretching out before you on the metal floor. The door slides open with a soft sigh of hydraulics, revealing the long corridor that leads to the freezing stages. You take one last look back at the massive tanks, their silhouettes dark against the glowing panels. The hallway is even quieter than the chamber, the walls lined with conduits and cables that carry power to the rest of the sector. You can hear the distant sound of a ventilation fan, a faint whirring that seems to come from miles away. The silence is thick, weighted with the history of the workers who have walked these paths before you. You pass a small alcove where a collection of old tools has been left behind, their surfaces worn smooth by years of use. They are relics of a different age, tools that were used to build the very foundations of the city. You wonder about the people who held them, about the lives they lived in the quiet hours of the night. The path begins to slope downward, leading you deeper into the belly of the station. The atmosphere becomes cooler here, the warmth of the compression chambers replaced by a crisp, biting chill. This is the transition zone, where the gas is prepared for the carbonite freezing process. You reach a heavy blast door, its surface scarred by years of industrial use. You press the control panel, and the door groans as it slides aside, revealing the entrance to the freezing chambers. A cloud of cold vapor spills out, swirling around your boots like a phantom mist. As you step into the new sector, the hum of the machinery changes, becoming a sharp, metallic whine. The work here is different, more technical and demanding, but you are ready for it. You move forward into the mist, your eyes fixed on the glowing consoles that mark the next stage of the journey. The vapor clings to your boots, a swirling white presence that follows your every step across the freezing floor. You feel the sudden bite of the frost through your regulation gloves, a sharp reminder of the energy required to stabilize the gas. This sector feels different from the compression levels, more clinical and precise in its architecture. The orange glow from the pits below illuminates the underside of the catwalks in a flickering, fiery dance. It is the only warmth to be found in this place, though it offers no true comfort to the skin. You watch the bubbling liquid carbonite, its consistency like thick syrup, as it waits for the next injection. The heavy machinery hums beneath the floor, a constant vibration that you feel in your teeth. You reach the primary console, a terminal worn by decades of constant use. The buttons are recessed, designed for the thick fingers of workers who usually patrol these levels. You enter the sequence for the third chamber, watching the data stream across the screen in soft green characters. The flickering light of the display reflects off your visor, a small beacon in the dimness. The pressure in the lines is holding steady at 400 units. You adjust the flow rate by 2%, a minor correction that ensures the stability of the final product. Every millisecond of the freezing process must be calculated with absolute certainty to prevent a breach. You take a breath, the cold atmosphere stinging your lungs with a crisp industrial sharpness. A low groan echoes through the chamber as the cooling fins rotate, shedding excess heat into the ventilation shafts. It is a lonely tone, one that seems to vibrate through the metal and into your very bones. You lean against the railing, feeling the tremor of the massive machinery working beneath your feet. The sound is a constant companion in the isolation of the shift. Looking down into the depths of the pit, you see the shadows of the support struts. They look like the ribs of some great beast, holding the station together against the pressure of the gas giant. This part of the city was built to endure, a vast marvel of engineering that has stood for 80 years. You wonder how many others have stood where you stand now, watching the same orange light. You move toward the secondary cooling rack, where the canisters are being prepared for their final transformation. The metal is slick with condensation, turning into a fine layer of ice as the temperature continues to drop. You wipe a patch of frost away to read the serial number on the nearest tank. The digits are stamped deep into the alloy, a permanent record of its origin. It is a standard shipment destined for the outer rim territories, where the gas will power 1,000 different industries. You think about the journey these blocks will take far away from the orange clouds of Bespin. They will see suns you have never visited, and moons that are only names on a map. The thought provides a brief moment of wonder in the quiet hours of the night. The silence of the evening is broken only by the intermittent hiss of the steam vents. It is a predictable cycle, a breath of the machine that signals the completion of a cooling phase. You wait for the hiss to fade before moving to the next station, your footsteps echoing on the metal grating. The stillness returns, thick and expectant. You find a small data pad left behind by a previous shift worker, its screen cracked but still functional. It contains a log of minor malfunctions and maintenance notes written in an ancient, hurried script. You read through the entries, finding a strange kinship with the person who stood here hours before you. Their frustrations and triumphs are mirrored in your own. The ambient warmth of the control room begins to feel like a welcome relief as you step inside to check the master levels. Here, the hum of the city is muffled, replaced by the soft clicking of relays and the whir of internal fans. You sit in the chair for a moment, feeling the weight of the shift finally pressing upon your shoulders. The glowing panels provide a sense of security in the isolation. You monitor the sensors for any sign of a leak in the primary seals. The readouts are all within normal parameters, a steady stream of green lights that brings a sense of peace. In this small room, the chaos of the processing plant feels like a distant memory. You record the data into your log, the scratching of your stylus, the only noise in the room. Outside the viewport, the clouds of Bespin are a deep, bruised purple in the late hour. The lightning flashes in the dark, illuminating the storm cells that roam the lower atmosphere like predatory animals. You are safe here, high above the turmoil, protected by the strength of the durasteel walls. The contrast between the storm and the quiet room is profound. You return to the freezing floor, the chill greeting you like an old friend. The carbonite pit is ready for the next cycle, the liquid surface now still and reflective. You activate the crane, watching the massive claw descend into the pit with a graceful, measured motion. The metal surface of the claw catches the orange light, gleaming with a dull luster. The machinery moves with a certain elegance, a testament to the skill of the craftsmen who maintain these systems. There is no haste in the movement, only the steady progress of a task being performed with total focus. You guide the claw into position, your hands light on the controls. The precision of the machine is a comfort in the unpredictable environment. As the canister is submerged, a cloud of frozen vapor erupts from the pit, obscuring your vision for a moment. It is a beautiful sight, the white mist catching the orange light and turning it into a shimmering haze. You wait for the cloud to dissipate, your heart beating in time with the steady rhythm of the station. The mist lingers in the air, a phantom presence. The freezing process takes exactly 6 minutes, a period of time that always feels longer than it is. You spend the minutes checking the integrity of the containment field, ensuring that no gas escapes into the room. The safety of the entire sector depends on these few moments of intense concentration. You watch the timer count down, the seconds ticking away in the silence. Once the cycle is complete, the crane lifts the frozen block from the pit. It is a solid slab of carbonite now, the Tibanna gas trapped within its metallic embrace. You watch the moisture freeze instantly on the exterior surface, creating a crystalline pattern that catches the light. The block is cold, a monolithic weight that represents the end of a long process. You move the block toward the storage racks, where it will wait for the transport ships to arrive. The racks are nearly full, a wall of grey stone that represents weeks of labor and millions of credits. It is a satisfying sight, a physical manifestation of the work you have done throughout the shift. You secure the block in its place, the metal clamps locking with a solid click. The shift begins to move toward its conclusion, but there is still much to be done before you can rest. You turn your attention to the next set of canisters, the cycle beginning once more in the quiet of the station. The path ahead is clear, and you follow it with the quiet confidence of experience. You are a master of this domain, a silent guardian of the city's lifeblood. You notice a small leak in one of the coolant lines, a tiny drip of blue fluid that freezes before it hits the floor. It is a minor issue, but one that requires your immediate attention to prevent a larger failure. You reach for your toolkit, the heavy metal handles cold against your palms. The repair will be quick, but it must be done right. Repairing the line is a delicate task, requiring you to work in a cramped space behind the main processors. You move with care, your fingers nimble despite the chill that permeates the area. The work is methodical, a series of small actions that lead to a successful resolution. You tighten the final bolt, the leak stopped by your hand. With the leak sealed, you take a moment to breathe. the silence of the chamber closing in around you once more. The station feels alive in these moments, a giant organism that requires constant care and attention to survive. You are a part of that life, a vital link in the chain that keeps the air flowing and the lights burning. The realization is a quiet one, a secret shared between you and the machine. You walk back toward the main corridor, your task in the freezing chambers complete for the time being. The transition zone is ahead, a place where the temperature rises and the atmosphere softens. You look forward to the relative warmth of the next sector, the bridge to the final stage of your journey. Your boots ring out on the metal floor, a steady beat in the stillness. The magnetic clamps on the storage racks engage with a deep, resonant tone that echoes through the hall. It is a finality that marks the end of the processing cycle for this batch of gas. You check the status lights one last time, ensuring everything is locked and secure for the coming transport. The orange glow of the pits is now behind you, a fading light in the distance. A ventilation shaft nearby draws in a draft, creating an echoing wind that sounds like a distant choir. It is a hauntingly beautiful noise, a byproduct of the city's complex life support systems. You stop for a moment to listen, the melody of the machine providing a brief respite from the labor. The wind carries the scent of ozone and chilled metal. You consult your datapad to review the safety protocols for the next sector. The red tape of bureaucracy is a necessary evil in a place as dangerous as this. You scroll through the pages of regulations, your eyes scanning the familiar text with a practiced gaze. Every rule is written in the memory of those who learned the hard way. In the distance, you see the lights of a refinery platform, a tiny jewel suspended in the purple murk. It is a reminder that you are not alone in this measureless expanse, even if it feels that way in the silence. You wonder if the workers there are also finishing their rounds, preparing for the transition to the final hours of the night. The connection is a thin one, but it is there. You pull out a handheld scanner to perform a final calibration of the local sensors. The device chirps in your hand, a small, friendly noise that breaks the industrial hum. The readings are perfect, a testament to the maintenance you have performed throughout the shift. You tuck the scanner back into your belt, satisfied with the results. Fatigue is a slow tide, rising in your limbs as you take measured steps toward the exit. The weight of the evening is felt most in these transitions, when the focus of the work shifts to the anticipation of rest. You do not rush, for haste is the enemy of safety in the belly of the station. Each step is deliberate, a steady progress toward the end. The smell of industrial lubricant hangs in the air, a thick and familiar scent that defines the processing levels. It is the smell of productivity, of machines that are well cared for and functioning as they should. You have grown to appreciate this scent, a sensory anchor in the shifting clouds of the gas giant. It is the smell of home in a way. The emergency lighting in the corridor pulses with a soft amber glow, a low-power mode designed to save energy during the quiet hours. It casts long, distorted shadows against the walls, turning the familiar hallway into a landscape of light and shadow. You navigate the path with ease, your memory of the station better than any map. The amber light is gentle on your tired eyes. You check the viscosity of the hydraulic fluid in a nearby reservoir, the liquid thick and dark behind the glass. It is a small detail, but one that ensures the smooth operation of the blast doors and heavy machinery. Everything is as it should be, a perfect state of readiness for the next shift. You make a final note in your log, the entry complete. A final inspection of the catwalk supports reveals no signs of stress or wear. You settle into a moment of reflection, looking back at the vast chamber you have just traversed. The machinery is quiet now. The cooling cycle finished and the canisters stored. The work is done and the station is at peace. You reach the heavy blast door that leads to the final processing sector. The metal cool under your hand as you press the release. The door slides aside with a familiar hiss, revealing a corridor bathed in a soft, golden light. You step through the threshold, leaving the chill of the freezing chambers behind as you move toward the conclusion of your journey. The golden radiance of the filtration wing is a welcome change after the clinical frost of the carbonite levels. Here the pipes are wrapped in insulating bronze foil, and the floor plates are polished to a dull, coppery sheen. It feels warmer, more lived in, as if the breath of the city itself is circulating through these vents. You feel the temperature rise by a few degrees as you walk. You pass a row of monitoring stations where holographic displays flicker with amber data. The streams of information represent the purity levels of the gas being siphoned from the depths of the planet below. Each number and each graph is a heartbeat of the economy of Cloud City. You pause to observe a fluctuating line that indicates a minor pressure shift in the third collection vein. It is nothing to worry about, simply the natural heave of the atmosphere as the planet turns away from its sun. You adjust a dial with a gentle touch, watching the line smooth out into a perfect, steady horizon. The tactile feedback of the knob is satisfying, a physical connection to the immense invisible forces outside these walls. You feel the slight magnetic resistance as the control clicks into place. The silence here is layered, composed of 1,000 tiny mechanical sighs. You can hear the distant thrum of the repulsor lift engines, keeping the city afloat in the violet clouds. It is a constant reassuring presence, a low frequency that vibrates in your chest more than it registers in your ears. You have grown to rely on it, a foundation of safety in a place that has no ground. To your left, a wide observation port offers a view of the Bespin skyline at this late hour. The other platforms look like floating lanterns, suspended in a sea of swirling mauve and deep indigo. There is no horizon, only a gradient of color that fades into the measureless reach of the gas giant. You watch a small cloud car drift by, its lights blinking in a slow, rhythmic pattern. The pilot is likely a fellow worker, perhaps a scout, checking the integrity of the outer pylons. You feel a brief sense of kinship with that distant light, knowing they are also awake while the rest of the galaxy sleeps. The loneliness of the shift is tempered by these small visual reminders of a shared purpose. You turn back to your task, the warmth of the room keeping the fatigue at bay for a little longer. You reach the centrifuge an immense cylinder that rotates with a precision that defies its scale. Inside, the raw Tibanna is being spun, separated from the impurities of the lower atmosphere. The metal casing is warm to the touch, vibrating with the energy of the process. You place a hand on the surface, feeling the strength of the machinery through your glove. It is a pulse of pure industrial power. This is the core of the operation, where the gas becomes the valuable resource sought by every star system. You check the seals on the output valves, ensuring no leak compromises the grade of the product. The magnetic locks click into place with a sharp metallic note that echoes down the hallway. It is a sound of completion, of a job done well. You verify the pressure 100 times in your mind. You move toward the quality control lab, where the samples are tested for their refractive index. The room is filled with glass tubes and delicate sensors, a stark contrast to the industrial bulk of the refinery. You pick up a small vial, holding it up to the golden light to inspect the clarity of the gas within. It glows with a soft inner luminescence, like a trapped star. This particular batch is destined for the high-end medical frigates, where its purity is a matter of life and death. You handle it with care, placing it back in its padded crate with a sense of quiet pride. Even in the shadows of a night shift, the work you do has a ripple effect across the stars. You log the results on a data pad, the screen glowing softly in the dimness. The corridor ahead curves gently, following the outer rim of the processing ring. The walls are lined with storage lockers and emergency kits, all marked with the emblem of the mining guild. You notice a small potted plant on a technician's desk, its leaves drooping slightly in the artificial light. You take a moment to pour a little water from your canteen into the soil. It is a small gesture, a moment of life in a landscape of metal and gas. The plant seems to perk up its green color, a vibrant contrast to the copper and bronze of the room. You smile, a brief private moment before continuing your journey toward the final sector. The passage of time is marked only by the slow progression of your tasks. You hear the faint melody of a radio playing in a distant break room, the music muffled by the thick walls. It is a tune you recognize, a slow, melancholic ballad from the inner rim. The notes drift through the ventilation ducts, a ghost of a song that follows you for a few steps. It adds a layer of nostalgia to the evening, a reminder of worlds beyond the clouds. The air here is filtered to a high degree tasting of ozone and a faint metallic tang. It is crisp and clean, filling your lungs with a refreshing chill that clears your head. You take a deep, slow breath, letting the stillness of the station fill your mind. The stress of the day has long since evaporated, leaving only the steady focus of the night. You encounter an automated droid trundling along the floor on its 3 small wheels. It stops as you approach, its sensors whirring as it identifies your clearance. You give it a friendly pat on its dome, and it chirps in response before continuing its patrol. These small machines are the silent guardians of the station, tireless and loyal. The floor beneath your boots changes from metal to a textured, rubberized material designed to dampen the vibration of the pumps. It makes your footsteps even quieter, a muffled thud that is barely audible. You feel like a phantom moving through, a sleeping giant careful not to wake the slumbering city. The intimacy of the moment is profound, a secret shared between you and the machine. You arrive at the secondary control hub, a circular room with windows that look out over the docking bays. Below, the great transport ships are moored, their hulls scarred by many journeys through the stars. They are silent now, their engines cooling as they wait for the morning to begin their travels. You can see the faint glow of their navigation lights reflecting off the polished floor. One of the ships is a modified Corellian freighter, its lines sleek and aggressive even in repose. You wonder what stories its crew could tell of distant ports and narrow escapes. But here, in the sanctuary of Cloud City, it is just another vessel waiting for its cargo. The peace of the harbor is a reflection of the peace you feel in your work. You check the status of the loading arms, ensuring they are retracted and locked for the evening. The massive hydraulic limbs are folded against the docking piers like the legs of a giant insect. You verify the pressure in the lines one last time. The gauges showing a steady green light. Everything is ready for the bustle of the coming day. The shift is drawing to a close, but there are still a few more checks to perform. You move toward the final elevator that will take you to the observation deck. The transition is smooth and effortless, a natural progression toward the end of your rounds. You feel a sense of accomplishment, a quiet satisfaction in the order you have maintained. The elevator doors open with a soft chime, revealing a small glass-walled carriage. As you ascend, the city unfolds below you, a sprawling network of lights and metal suspended in the void. It is a sight that never fails to move you, a testament to sentient ingenuity and the beauty of the clouds. You are a part of this, a small but vital gear in the machine. The golden glow of the filtration wing fades into the distance as you rise toward the higher levels. The light becomes cooler, a soft silver radiance that mimics the moonlight of a terrestrial world. You are approaching the final stage of your journey, where the work meets the sky. The anticipation of rest is a gentle weight in your mind, a promise of well-earned sleep. As the carriage slows, you prepare to step out into the quiet majesty of the high-altitude observation level. The elevator doors slide open with a whisper of pressurized oxygen. You step out onto the observation level where the floor is made of a dark, translucent material. It feels firm and cool beneath your feet as you walk toward the outer perimeter. The silence here is different from the hum of the processing plant. It is a hollow, expansive quiet that seems to swallow the noise of the city. You are standing at the very edge of the habitable zone where the atmosphere meets the open sky. To your left, a row of data monitors glows with a soft amber light. They track the high-altitude pressure gradients and the flow of the Tibanna through the upper collection veins. You lean against the console, feeling the slight vibration of the distant turbines far below. The data scrolls by in a steady, predictable stream, confirming that the harvest is proceeding without incident. It is a reassuring sight, the digital pulse of a city that never truly sleeps. The view through the massive curved windows is breathtaking, even after 1,000 shifts. The clouds of Bespin are a sea of swirling violet and gold, illuminated by the hidden fire of the core. There is no visible horizon, only the gradual blending of one hue into another. You can see the faint, flickering lights of a distant mining platform, a lone spark in the immense expanse of the gas giant. It is a solitary existence out here, but there is a certain peace in the isolation. You take a slow, deep breath, tasting the crispness of the filtered oxygen. It lacks the metallic tang of the processing floors, replaced instead by a faint ozone scent. This is the cleanest part of the station, where the wind from the heights is brought in and purified. You feel the tension in your shoulders begin to melt away as the stillness of the deck takes hold. The weight of the day is lifting, replaced by a gentle contemplative fatigue. A small maintenance droid rolls past its wheels, making a soft clicking sound on the floor. It stops briefly to scan a structural seam, its blue light bathing the area in a cold clinical glow. You watch it for a moment, appreciating the simple purpose of its design. It does not feel the cold or the height. It only knows the task it was built to perform. There is a quiet dignity in such singular focus, a lesson in the beauty of routine. You turn your attention back to the sky, where the first hint of the morning is appearing. A sliver of brilliant white light breaks through the lower cloud layers, casting long, dramatic shadows across the city's spires. The transition is subtle, a slow unfolding of color and light that signals the end of the quiet hours. The stars, which were so bright just a few minutes ago, are starting to fade into the deepening blue. It is the most peaceful time of the entire cycle. You check your chronometer, seeing that your shift has officially ended. The relief worker will be arriving at the primary hub soon to take over the watch. You have done your part, ensuring the gas flows and the machines remain in balance. Now it is time for you to seek your own rest in the lower levels of the residential wing. You feel a sudden wave of weariness, a physical reminder of the hours spent on your feet. You walk back toward the elevator, the amber glow of the monitors fading behind you. The ride down is smooth, the sensation of movement barely perceptible in the gravity-controlled carriage. You pass through the mid-level plazas where the first few citizens are starting to emerge. They are dressed in flowing robes of silk and synth mesh, their voices a low murmur in the hallways. They do not see the grease on your gloves or the tired lines around your eyes. The residential corridors are carpeted in, a thick grey fabric that absorbs all sound. It is a stark contrast to the hard metal of the industrial zones, a space designed for comfort and privacy. You reach your quarters, the door sliding open with a familiar mechanical click. The room is small and dimly lit, the only light coming from the city's glow through the porthole. It is your sanctuary, a private corner of the sky. You set your tool belt on the small metal table, the clink of the wrenches echoing in the quiet. One by one you remove the layers of your work uniform, the heavy fabric feeling like a shed skin. Your boots are the last to go, leaving your feet feeling light and strangely sensitive to the soft floor. You stretch your arms high above your head, hearing the satisfying pop of your joints. The day is finally over. You splash some cool water on your face, the liquid refreshing your tired skin. The mirror reflects a person who has worked hard, a face that knows the inner workings of a giant. You smile faintly at the thought of the millions of credits of gas that passed through your hands. It is a massive responsibility, but one you carry with pride. You dry your face with a soft towel, the texture comforting and warm. The bunk is narrow, but the mattress is soft, conforming to the shape of your body. You lie down, feeling the immediate relief of being horizontal after so many hours. The hum of the station's life support is a constant low-frequency drone that acts as a lullaby. It is the heartbeat of the city, a steady pulsing reminder that you are safe and supported. You close your eyes and the world outside begins to blur. You think about the clouds again, the way they shift and change with the winds. They are never the same, yet they are always there, a constant presence in your life. You imagine yourself drifting among them, weightless and free, carried by the currents of the atmosphere. The thought is soothing, a mental escape from the physical world of pipes and valves. You are no longer a worker, you are a dreamer. In the distance, you can hear the faint sound of a departing freighter, its engines a low rumble that vibrates in your chest. It is carrying the Tibanna you processed out to the stars to fuel the galaxy. Your work has a purpose, a reach that extends far beyond the walls of this station. It is a humbling thought to be a part of something so immense. The rumble fades. leaving only the silence of the room. The light from the window is soft and diffused, a pale gold that paints patterns on the ceiling. You watch the shadows dance as the city continues its slow rotation around the central spire. Everything is in motion, yet everything feels still in this moment of repose. You are at peace with the universe and with yourself. The sleep you have earned is deep and inviting. Your mind wanders to the Ugnaughts in the lower pits, their rhythmic chanting, a memory that lingers in your ears. They are the unsung heroes of the city, the ones who keep the fires burning. You feel a sense of kinship with them, a shared understanding of the labor that sustains this place. We are all part of the same machine, each of us playing our part. The thought brings us a sense of belonging. The air in the room is perfectly still, the temperature kept at a steady, comfortable level. You pull the thin thermal blanket up to your chin, the warmth wrapping around you like a cocoon. It is the final act of the shift, the transition from the public to the private. You are alone with your thoughts and the quiet beauty of the evening. The world is far away now. You can feel your heartbeat slowing, matching the steady pace of the station's systems. Every muscle in your body is relaxing, the last remnants of tension fading into the mattress. The darkness is not empty, but full of the soft sounds of the living city. It is a comforting murk, a space where you can let go of everything. You are falling into a dreamless, restful sleep. The last thing you see before your eyes close, for the final time, is the glow of Bespin. It is a warm, radiant light that seems to promise a new beginning when you wake. The cycle will continue, the gas will flow, and the city will endure. But for now there is only the quiet and the soft embrace of the clouds. You are home and you are at rest. The silence deepens as the station moves further into the light of the twin suns. The work is done, the day is over, and the city is at peace. You drift away, carried on the wings of the wind, into the heart of the gas giant. The dream is just beginning, a slow and gentle journey through the endless sky. Sleep comes, easily now, a well-deserved end to a long and quiet night. Thank you for spending this evening with me. Until next time on Canon and Calm, sleep well.